Marcy.
Afternoon, good to see you again.
Cal, I'm feeling a little left out. It's a good thing you called me at lunch hour.
Okay, there we are, 1:30. I would like to call this meeting to order and recognize that we are meeting on the traditional territories of the Tishat and the Petchesett First Nation in the office here, and realize that all of you in media land there are in various different First Nation areas, and that you take a moment to respect that. And I'd like to also give notice that we are being recorded and live streamed on YouTube, and that'll be on the Region District website. And the board members in the room here at the moment are Cal Roberts, myself, John McMahon, Vice Chair, Daniel, our CAO, and Wendy, Administration Manager, and Mike Erg, who just rolled in here, Manager of Planning. And I'd like to ask for an approval of the agenda, please. Cal and Bob. And any additions, deletions from the agenda? We can't take half of it out, by the way. We're going to do the whole thing. All good? So all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Also, just like to recognize that it is Pink Shirt today. Anti-bullying, and bullying takes many, many different forms, and we need to think about it in our lives when we're communicating, especially online, where it's very easy to say things that you might not necessarily say otherwise. So the day to think about how we interact with our friends, neighbors, people we know and people we don't know. So public consultation, I think this is Terry's piece, and Terry is here somewhere. So Terry, yep.
Sure is. I will just share my screen.
Oh, good. We need it.
If I can figure out which screen I'm sharing. Okay. Oh, and just give me one sec. Okay. Sorry, I was just in the middle of it here. So today I would like to present the draft 2022 to 2026 financial plan as part of our public consultation process. So we'll do a very quick, it might not seem quick, but considering all the components of it, there'll be a very quick overview of the draft plan for everyone today. So just a quick reminder, if there's any members of the public, what the purpose of a regional district is. So we are the local government for the electoral areas. We also are a regional service body that we provide regional services to multiple jurisdictions within our area. We also can combine with other jurisdictions or regional districts to provide services such as 911. And we also work to lobby senior levels of government on issues that impact our region, or through associations such as the AVICC, where we're advocating or lobbying on behalf of, say, the whole Vancouver Island. We have 6 electoral areas, 3 member municipalities, and 4 member treaty nations. And we provide a variety of services from regional components. We have some sub-regional services where areas such as the Alberni Valley will participate in a service together. And then we also have local services that we provide solely to one or a portion of one area, such as animal control and street lighting. This is our board of directors, and we have been on a little bit of a roadshow. I was in Bamfield and City of Port Alberni yesterday trying to present to the different areas as we are going through this financial planning process. I thought it was important, since the census was just released, to present that for the board and the public. And our area has grown by approximately 8.2% since the last census in 2016. And just a reminder that this only captures a snapshot in time as of May 2021. So there is, I think, still growth occurring in many areas of our region in the last year. Assessed values are another hot topic this year, as they have changed greater than I think we've seen in at least recent history. So the overall, sorry, I just got to move the overall area went up by 38%, which is substantial. So there's been quite a few questions about how does that impact area taxes. And I just wanted to take a minute to talk about that, in that because of these changes in assessed values and how they didn't occur in a uniform manner across all of our jurisdictions, it definitely had an impact on each area in a different manner. So I just took the 6 electoral areas and the 3 member municipalities to do an illustration of what the impact was. So if we had the exact same tax requisition as last year for regional and sub-regional services, these are what the changes would be if we had 0 tax increase from last year. So an area such as Beaver Creek would be going up 8.17%, because their assessed values went up significantly higher than the average, whereas an area like Beaufort actually would have gone down by 3.03%. So as we're dealing with these overall impacts by each area in our financial planning process, it's important to note that some of it is actually just a tipping of the scale or a change of the portion of the pie, however you want to talk about it. But that even if we had a 0% tax increase, Beaver Creek's share, for example, or Long Beach share would have gone up by 8.86%. So it's an interesting factor that the regional districts have that doesn't really occur in the municipality. So today, the draft financial plan has many services. Our services are independent or siloed. We cannot transfer funding from one service to the other. We're undergoing this process for the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we need to adopt by March 31st of this year. We, as a regional district, are not a taxing authority and will be requisitioning the money required either through the province or our member municipalities. Today is just one component of our public consultation. As I mentioned, we're trying to get out to some community groups and other councils, and we are encouraging members of the public, if you have any questions or comments regarding the financial plan, just submit them via email at budget@acrd.bc.ca, and we will be sure to pass those along to the directors. So our financial plan looks at our existing operating costs, and then also the ACRD strategic plan, which is our very first strategic plan that was adopted last year. We also have the asset management plans, which have really identified what those infrastructure gaps are, and we're developing plans to close those gaps. And we're looking to adopt a plan that includes allocation of resources that will achieve the board's outcomes, but also being responsive to things as things have changed. And there's not been a better example than the COVID environment we've been living in the past couple of years. In terms of our strategic plan, I'm not going to get into the details, but thought I'd touch on the 5 strategic focus areas. Number 1 being the economy and COVID-19 recovery. The second one being communications and engagement with communities. Third area of focus is management of new and existing infrastructure. Number 4 is emergency management. And 5 is partnerships and alignment. So lots of details, and every year we set targets as to what we actually want to achieve with these options. So this information can be found in the strategic plan itself. It can be found in the financial plan, and then we'll also load this slide deck onto the website for information. Last year, following the adoption of the strategic plan, there was a few resources that were identified that were needed to try to achieve the goals set out in the plan. So we have now hired all of these, but these resources were only funded for a part year last year just because of the timing of onboarding these positions. So the financial impact of these positions, such as the purchasing coordinator, is really going to be felt here in 2022 and is part of what those increases are this year. Again, a really full slide, but just wanted to make sure that it was clear that we are receiving significant grant funding from numerous sources and that we continue to be very active in this world. And having that grant coordinator this year who's going to be actively searching for these things, even more so than we had capacity to do before, I think is going to be fantastic for our organization. So these are the ones that we had going in 2021. They quite often carry over multiple years. So these are the confirmed ones. And then we also have a number that we've either applied for or we already know this year that we're going to get. And this list will grow as more opportunities are presented. From a general government standpoint, the 2022 highlights include the implementation of our communications program, which included hiring a communications coordinator in January. And then also some security focus. The cyber security world is changing every day and just needing to make sure that we're staying ahead of that. And finally, the credit union is planning on moving out in the summer. And so because we have exceeded our space upstairs, we're hoping to expand into that basement area and address some of our not only our office space issues, but maybe some additional meeting spaces, which are also short or hard to find in our office right now. The local government elections are going to occur in October of 2022, and the regional district conducts the election for the 6 electoral areas, as well as the school district election in conjunction with the municipalities. And our budget this year has been increased because there is going to need to be COVID safety measures in place, as well as the regulations from the province have changed regarding mail ballot voting. And so there'll be some additional costs of managing that component as well. Also included in the electoral area administration is the community works funding. This is federal funding that we get from through UBCM and has a wide range of categories that it can be applied to. So we've really taken a more 5-year focus this year and tried to identify a plan that addresses some risks and areas of concerns, and also actions the items in the strategic plan. So we've identified, I think, about $4 million worth of projects over the next 4 years, and this discussion will continue tomorrow at the electoral area directors meeting. From a regional planning perspective, a very busy service. Both regional and rural planning have been incredibly busy in the last couple of years. But the regional planning also has a very heavy agriculture focus. So a lot of agriculture initiatives, such as expanding the influence of regional agriculture support, water supply, processing at the dock food hub, number of initiatives, most of which, if not almost nearly all of them, have been grant funded. So very successful with our agricultural support workers and securing some grant funding. From a rural area perspective, again, very busy in terms of applications, but also looking to complete the zoning bylaw review this year, followed by some minor OCP updates. And then also looking to really get that bylaw and notice enforcement ticketing program up and running, as well as looking at a community amenity contributions policy as we're starting to see development in many areas. From emergency standpoint, I've combined the 3 emergency programs. So we have Alberni Valley, Bamfield, and Long Beach. And so we want to conduct a hazard risk vulnerability assessment, which would be for all the areas, and do some brochure and evacuation route planning for the Alberni Valley, because we're just about to complete the evacuation route plan. Also hoping to do a West Coast evacuation route plan if we can get some grant funding for that. And in Bamfield, we're needing to recruit a new volunteer coordinator. And in Long Beach, we're looking to determine a program model that works moving forward. The fire departments have recently undertaken a fire services review by a consultant to identify that what is required for each department to meet its fundamental statutory and regulatory requirements. So we just received the, I believe, final draft of this report, and we'll be presenting this to the fire departments as well as the directors to kind of figure out a plan moving forward. And then we've had some equipment purchases. So Banffield's getting a new mini pumper, Sprout Lake's got a new water tender, and Beaver Creek has some SCBA that needs to be replaced this year. So fire departments are definitely an area of focus for us in 2022. From a parks perspective, we have both regional and community parks. In the regional parks area, we're looking at getting some signage design guidelines completed, starting some park management plans, which is something new for us. We're also hoping to complete the Franklin Bridge scoping project. And if grant funding comes through, we really want to get that last section of the West Coast multi-use path constructed. So very hopeful that we can do that in 2022. From a community park standpoint, Banffield's looking to develop their park in West Banfield. Sprout Lake has some more trail construction. Beaver Creek has a bridge replacement, and Cherry Creek, we need to develop the Maplehurst Park Plan as well as address some parking issues that are related to that trail. The aquatics facility is to look at the feasibility of replacing the Echo Aquatic Center, which is currently owned by the city of Port Alberni. So we need a broader discussion with the Alberni Valley community in advance of this. So really making sure this is on our work plan for 2022 to start that engagement discussion. And it's a good time because I understand that city of Port Alberni is undergoing their OCP. So they'll be doing significant community engagement now anyway. So it'll be a great time for us to make sure that we capture that already existing engagement process. From an airport perspective, we have kind of hopefully bouncing back to a new normal after COVID. We've benefited from some grant funding over the last couple of years and are looking to really look at some forward thinking on these airports. So in the Alberni Valley, doing a business case about expanding airside leases. And then for the West Coast, wanting to look at developing an airport terminal building or long-term capacity master plan, as well as some infrastructure upgrades, such as installing a new wildlife corridor control perimeter fencing. The organics project is well underway. It's a $6 million grant through the Strategic Priorities Fund. Phase 1 saw us implement it within the city of Port Alberni, and we started diverting organics in September of 2021. And now we've turned our attention to the West Coast and are hopeful to complete the landfill upgrades this summer and start curbside collection in the fall. And then phase 3, which will be in 2023, is being considered for the Alberni Valley electoral areas, which will be discussed tomorrow at the AV meeting, but then also looking at Banfield, the First Nation communities, and Salmon Beach. So that will be in 2023. And just a reminder that the Sort and Go app, if you're in the city of Port Alberni, is a fantastic source for information. Also at the landfill, partly because of these organics processing coming up, there's been some significant infrastructure upgrades at the AV in the past year and focusing on the West Coast, including a leachate system upgrade that'll be upcoming in the next year or two out there. Water systems, water is flowing fairly well for us these days. Beaver Creek is continuing down their replacement plan to get rid of the old pipe over the next number of years. Banfield had some struggles with their submarine line in 2021 and continuing to look for grant funding to support that. And then in Millstream, we're also completing some upgrades and looking at a preventative maintenance plan. From Salmon Beach, the focus was on their sewage treatment upgrade again in 2021, and 2022 is really looking at the road improvement plan and looking at a 5-year plan to upgrade their roads. Transit, the Alberni Valley Custom Transit is operating as usual. From a regional perspective, we're looking to work with BC Transit to investigate the possible expansion of the City of Port Alberni conventional transit into both rural areas and potentially outside of our region. So that will be led by BC Transit this year. And then West Coast Transit, we're looking for the implementation of that West Coast Transit service. So we need to install some bus stop infrastructure, but also having some COVID delays through BC Transit and bus delays. So looking for an update for them coming soon as to what the timeline will be for that service implementation. And finally, although this is not part of the regional district, it is a separate legal entity. It has the same taxpayers, so we always find it important to touch on it as well. But the the Regional Hospital District is a separate legal entity. The West Coast General Hospital emergency room renovation continues. I understand, I don't believe it's going to be wrapped up till early 2023, but is definitely underway at this time. And then because of the debt that's retiring for the West Coast General Hospital, we are starting to build up a reserve fund to offset the future debt for the construction of a new Tofino General Hospital facility, which is not going to be in the next couple of years, I don't believe, but is becoming a higher priority for Island Health every year. So that's important. And this funding that we'll raise will just help to offset the borrowing when we get to that point. And I just kind of did a comparison. I don't want to go through all of this, but kind of compared all the different changes or the rates between the different areas. And again, it kind of relates to one of those first slides when I talked about the assessment changes. So you can see that we have a wide range of like Cherry Creek at 1.37% increase to Beaver Creek at 19.12%. And it's important to remember that each of these areas participate in different services. So some have fire departments, some don't have fire departments, some have water systems, some don't. So it is kind of like comparing apples and oranges and grapes and bananas, a little bit fruit salad like, but it is kind of a good comparison to find out where we're at. So again, I'll make sure that these slides go up onto the website after. And that was a very fast overview, but I am happy to answer any questions, and I'll stop sharing so that we can all see.
So any questions?
Mr. Chair, we do have 3 attendees online. So if any of those attendees want to ask questions, they need to put something in the Q&A if they want to ask any questions right now.
Okay, so I've got Bob, and I think I saw Penny's hand up there too. So Director Beckett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bamfield at 11.4%. I can't say that like yourself, Chair, you had mentioned this morning the concerns you have with significant increases, and well, I'm not happy about the 11.4%. I do have to acknowledge the work that staff has done and the excellent presentation last night by Terry to our community. And I've said it before, the asset management plan, identified a number of areas of concerns. I think the budget is addressing this and reflects some of the reasons for a fairly significant increase. But again, I just wanted to thank Terry for her presentation last night and making herself available along with Daniel. So again, thanks very much for that.
Thank you. Director Cote.
Thank you. I did receive an email. I'm not sure. It says to budget and to myself. So I'm not sure who budget is, but from a representative from Sprout Lake. I'm not sure if it was shared. No,
I haven't received. We've been monitoring the budget email and we have not received anything to date. So I wonder if they entered the email incorrectly. So if you don't mind sharing, that would be great.
It says budget at acrd.bc.ca.
Did they just send it?
At 1:30 today, 1:32.
Okay.
Would you like me to read it off or?
Sure, or I can. I do see it here now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so it says, Dear Directors and ACRD staff, I am representing seniors and residents in the ACRD. There's a lot of concern with the massive increase in taxes being proposed. We are facing an increasing high cost of living and inflation, as well as recovering from a 2-year pandemic. There are also additional services being explored, such as the Sort and Go, which would also add to the cost of living. Many seniors are on fixed income, so when increases in taxes and the cost of living happen, they have to make choice between medication, food, and other essential bills such as hydro. I hope that the ACRD can keep these challenges that the residents are facing in consideration today when I look at the budget for this year. I do not believe that people should have to sell their homes in order to retire comfortably. Please consider that community members have already been through so much that this additional financial burden is just too much for most people. Thank you for your consideration. Sorry, and that was from Sabrina. And that is the only email we have received to date, unless someone has put something in the Q&A.
There's been nothing in the Q&A from those attending from the public online. Mr. Chair, we do have a few in the audience. I don't know if they have any questions.
Pardon me?
There's a few in the audience.
Oh, okay. So is anybody in the audience here with regards to the budget issue? No.
I live at Stroll Lake, that didn't mind if there was a little bit more put to this snow plowing than we have now, it sounds like we did this,
Sorry, we can't hear this.
So I live out at Stroke Lake, and the one thing that was really front and center was when we had all the snow. We got, and maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but there was very little attention to, like the plowing out there. I just think if there was an ambulance or a fire truck had to come through at certain times, they wouldn't have been able to. That's all.
So I've had this question a few times. Unfortunately, I was away when it snowed, but Beaver Creek had the same sort of problems. But the roads, the plowing and maintenance of the roads is a provincial piece. It doesn't go through the regional, it isn't funded through the regional district at all. We do have liaison with Main Road Contracting who takes care of the roads under a contract with the provincial government. So we do meet with them from time to time, and we do have an opportunity to pick up the phone and give them a blast. But it was a trying sort of time for everybody that was involved with snow removal, the city and Main Road as well, because of the way it all occurred with the temperatures and the reoccurring snowfalls and so forth. So they're keyed on the main roads, period. Like that's their big thing is keep the main access roads free, and then to work systematically on the roads to lesser importance. Naturally, everybody's road in front of their house is the most important road in the municipality, but it's a real kind of strategical thing for them. And then we have the frost heaves as well. That is something we're not used to around here, where we had all that moisture and then it froze heavily, and that disturbed the pavement, which happens all the time in places like Fort St. John and stuff like that. Around here, we don't get that very often, but we sure got it this year. So it is provincial. It isn't part of your taxes other than in your provincial taxes. That is not part of your regional taxes, but it's certainly a concern that we hear a lot.
Yeah, I understand that Main Road is provincial, but I'm glad to hear you speak about you have a liaison with them, and perhaps that would be the direction. It went on for so long before we got any work done out there, any clearing. There were locals that were, doing their best with their quads with blades or whatever they could do, just to make it so that you could, get out of your driveway and get into town. But I think it's a safety issue. So if you wanted to bring that up sometime, that would be great.
Yeah, well, we have a spring meeting with them, and we typically have a fall meeting prior. But this event that we had it was a little out of the box. Cal.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, Main Road was having difficulty keeping up with everything. And principally after the main highways that they clear, then they go into secondary roads such as school bus routes and so on and so forth. That they get on those pretty quickly. But there is a contact line, a hotline for residents to call if they have real concerns about safety issues. They can phone them, and I know that they have a checklist and they go out and they go through them on a very regular basis to confirm that these issues are being addressed. So you certainly have an opportunity to contact them directly yourself. Thank you.
Okay, we got Director Cote.
Thank you. Through the chair, I too had problems getting out of my area. There was a neighbor that kindly did a pathway for his wife to get out to the main part of the road. My end of the road was not plowed until snow was starting to melt. So I did have quite a few emails from residents at Sprout Lake. And I did contact Ministry of Transportation as well as Main Road. And they got onto other roads, but I was neglected for quite some time, I must say. And I'm sure that there was a few areas that happened to as well. I know that one of the issues that they did have was trying to get drivers through that difficult time. COVID did have a bit of a play in there, just as most businesses around the world are facing that issue with employees that have to take time off because of illness. So that is part of the discussions that are occurring already with Ministry of Transportation and with Main Road. Thanks.
Alrighty. Anybody else? I'm not quite sure what to do with this. Do we receive it? Did we?
Yeah, it's just a presentation.
Okay, we don't have to receive it or anything, or should we receive it?
I don't know if Karen wants to receive it. I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
It's just-
Okay. Thank you, Terry, for your work. I know that this time is almost like plowing snow for you, but it's a ton of work and you never see the end of it. So thank you. And we'll be talking more about it tomorrow. So don't relax too much. Declarations. Anybody got conflict of interest or gifts exceeding $250 in value as per section 106 of the community charter? You got a gift?
I
Oh.
wish. No, I just wanted to let you know that I have to step out just before 3 to be at the bus stop, just so you're aware as chair.
Oh, good. Well, it's my birthday tomorrow, so I'll let you know early so I can get gifts tomorrow. Okay, so that's that. Adoption of the minutes for the Board of Directors meeting of February 9th. Cal and seconder, Director Cote. Any errors or omissions in those minutes? I know you read them front to back 3 times. No? All in favor? Anybody opposed? We're good. Okay, so we have petitions. So the petitions, just to let you know, we've got 10 minutes basic time. And if you have to go past that, I'll put up my hand and let you know that you're at your 10 minutes and the board will authorize more time for your presentation. And then the time for questions is on supplementary to that. So you're not to worry about if we spend 2 hours asking you questions afterwards. So I don't see Zoran here, so I'm expecting that Mike Carter, Vice President of Operations, Port Elbow Port Authority, Linda Sherbert, Manager of Administration and Properties, Kate Smith, Manager of Operations, Administrative Operations Manager, with a port update on China Creek Marina and campground long-term vision.
Thank you very much. And that's half my introduction done right there. I appreciate it. I am Mike Carter, and Lisa and Kate are in attendance. Thanks for pointing them out as well. I'm out of my comfort zone here, and Zoran does send his regrets. He sent me instead. Yeah, we want to just have this opportunity to update on port projects, partnerships, and China Creek Campground, because that's one of the strong ties we have with the ACRD in one of our long-term leases there. The port has had a bit of a challenge with traditional port work in the last few years. We've had log ships, export only, and for years lumber, but there's been no lumber in over 4 years now off our dock. And the log ships, they're cyclical. You know, some years are good, some are a little more challenging. The last two have been a little slower than they have been in the recent 10 years. So with those challenges, we're always looking for other ways to create new partnerships and projects and other ways for economics. And what we've done is actually create a lot more leases and warehousing opportunities. And that has actually created a significant amount of employment on the waterfront, much more than people would actually realize with all these new businesses on the waterfront there. So we'd like to speak to a few of those. Namely, the Sand Group has just a small company in town that most of you are quite well aware of, but they've actually signed an agreement with the Port Authority as of July 1st, 2021. They are now our terminal operator at berth number 3. And you haven't seen any activity there yet, but they are getting their volumes up to where they want it to be, where they deem it comfortable. Then they hope to be shipping off our dock, also as a terminal operator, which the Port Authority's never had a terminal operator before. We've done the stevedoring, we've taken care of those logistics. So to have a company that actually has the product, we think is really going to be a game changer for us and for how they move their product. Their end goal at the Port Authority would be to be moving containers, import and export via short sea shipping, and hopefully later with more volumes to have deep sea vessels in here as well for their containers to and or break bulk to go overseas. Right now, we've also engaged a couple of years ago with Uchuckas Tribal Government. They've got the Thunderbird Spirit water in our shed number 3, and they're bottling some of the finest water on earth, which some would say a perpetual supply of water from Henderson Lake. And they are just ramping up their product in the last year, and they're actually approaches now, and you'll see on the middle slide there, the middle picture there, almost in the middle to the left on berth number 2, they're looking at building another new building for future projects, and we're hoping to have some confirmation on that over the next couple of months, and that would really amp up their Thunderbird Spirit water line, which is a really big thing for us, and that'll almost double the employment that they have in the area as well. Also, in the shed next to it, shed number 2, it's Canadian Maritime Engineering. Canadian Maritime Engineering operates on 2 of the Port Authority properties, one of the main terminals, also at the corner of Bird Street, where they have the waves and tend to the incoming fishing vessels and any other commercial vessels. And they also have their own property down near the waterfront park, where they have, I think, 2 or 3 years of work ahead of them, which is fantastic to see. They're one of the biggest growing companies in town as far as employment. I've heard they're hiring another 30 or so in the next couple of weeks, or looking for that. That's just my understanding. But aside from that, they're also looking at proposing a floating dry dock, which many of you may be aware of. There is a floating dry dock committee in town. This dry dock is something that's direly needed in British Columbia. There's just a shortage of place to get vessels retrofitted. You're either in Victoria or Vancouver. They're running out of space. There's long lineups. We've got the Independent Seafood Corporation of Canada that has 2 large frozen sea factory vessels in town here. Make Port Alberni their home port for the last 7 years. They wait months to get in line for these things. At times, they've actually gone to Everett in Washington State so they can get their refit and inspections. It's been recognized by BC Ferries that this is needed, a floating dry dock of this magnitude. And this is no small project. This is about 3 years to build the dry dock. And it's about approximately 300 feet long, 300 meters long, sorry. So it's a very big project, and it could handle some pretty big vessels. And we'd like to continue working with them to make that come to fruition in Port Alberni. Next. We've also got Western Canada Marine Response Corporation that has been leasing our land and some water area behind Water Street since about 2018. They've got a 25-year lease with us. We call them WCMRC. Their building and office and warehouse was installed last May and commissioned, I think, later that month or early June. They've employed 17 to 20 full-time people that weren't in Port Alberni before. Some locals were hired, but most of them have come from elsewhere with their tickets and their trades. These are more good-paying jobs. They also have the Pocket Marina in behind Water Street or Port Boathouse if you want. You'll notice it isn't populated with other vessels yet. They've got some electrical issues there on standby with BC Hydro. Once that's rectified, you'll see probably 7 or 8 vessels in their own Pocket Marina, and that's an area that they lease themselves. WCMRC is basically the protector of the West Coast from the Souk area, Port Renfrew area to Tofino for potential tanker issues, kind of stem from the Trans-Mountain Pipeline expansion. But lucky enough to have them home port in Port Alberni because the jobs are here, people are moving here, and if there's any large scale or small scale spills in our inner harbor or inlet, they're here already as opposed to calling someone in. So that's it's very comforting to have them here. And some of the new stuff we're looking at, we've engaged a few times in the last couple of months with Maersk. Maersk does containers around the world, container shipping, but they also have a lot of offshore tugs. Right now, Maersk is on contract with 2 of their large offshore tugs for the ocean cleanup. The ocean cleanup is taking place in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. These vessels go out for 6 weeks at a time, and they're cleaning up the plastics. And you've heard of the blob and all the awful amounts of plastics that are floating in the Pacific Ocean. Their mandate is to clean that up. Maersk works for the ocean cleanup, and they're hoping to make Port Alberni their home port. We certainly are as well. Right now, they're Ogden Point in Victoria, but as the cruise season is ramping up again, chances are they'll have to leave soon. So we're hoping to get those 2 vessels here. They're actually trying to add to the fleet. If that happens, we'd love them to come here too. That would create not just dockside work, but also to offload all the product. Right now, it gets offloaded and shipped right to Rotterdam. Reason being, there's some international rules about bringing garbage into Canada, so it has to be put in a plane and flown away. We'd like to be able to capture that here, recycle it here, repurpose it here if possible, if not Port Alberni, but on the island. And that also ties in with recent discussions and engagements with the Coastal Restoration Society. They're a big organization that's cleaning up BC's beaches and underwater old dive sites. They also do ghost gear cleanup for old fishing gear sites and whatnot. They're actually doing a survey this week in Port Alberni of key sites, Port Authority, SOMAS area, and some of our marinas, just to see what's down there, to see what kind of cleanup they might have to do here. And we have some potential areas to lease to them short term here, but they'll also need places to bring this refuse to. And it's a really, really important issue to bring up that we can be part of the blue economy here and also help get rid of all the debris and repurpose it if possible collectively. Also like to bring up Kate Smith for this next slide and a half here to discuss the Dock Plus, which is a partnership between the province, ICE-T, the city of Port Alberni, and the Port Authority, which is the old Port Fish, the Dock Plus. And Kate would like to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Mike. Just a quick overview of what we're doing. Thank you for previously mentioning the Dock Plus and the work that we do together in terms of obtaining some funding to continue grow awareness of our facility and the food hub and bring more opportunities to the Dock Plus. Since August of 2020, our anchor tenants were operating out of our facility. There are currently 5 full-time anchor tenants together with 5 full-time operators from our commercial kitchen. which created approximately 20 full-time jobs through the year. And in season, it increases to almost 100, between 80 to 100 positions for the local communities to be a part of. We continue to proudly offer a place where people could live their passion for food, grow their income, and hopefully outgrow us and build their businesses from there. We stand here as a sort of an incubator for small and startup businesses to not have any capital investments from the beginning and just creating their product, growing their product, and scaling up. With currently having 5 anchor tenants, they are in partnership between each other. It's a great foundation for anyone who would like to start a business or would love to grow their business in the food industry. And with those collaborations, get to the next level, scale up, and as I mentioned, outgrow us hopefully, and obtain their own facility. We also are offering the cold storage ice plant and the blast freezer facility. We have a request for proposals open for a full-time operator to come and have these facilities under their control and offer those services to the communities. We have seen a great impact for the community to have the cold storage. We have the donations come into our facility. Sometimes they are stored for a few months before they can be delivered to the final destination. We've seen the interest from local fisheries and the need from local fisheries to have the cold storage facility, as well as businesses. For example, Cascadia Seaweed occupies almost half of our cold storage facility with their kelp being stored, and it's been critical for their operations to have those facilities. As well, we are looking forward to have Taste Local start operating as a storefront to offer those local foods and delivered to our valley, deliver the taste of the valley to the end consumer without having our food travel for vast amount of miles before coming to us, and reducing our carbon footprint by extension. Also, we are very grateful for Heather's support of ACRD, Heather Shobe, and North Island College, as we are next week starting the seafood processing training course for students, and hopefully if it will be a successful course, we will see it happen again maybe after the season. I'm working closely with local chefs as well to bring some workshops to our kitchen and get the community excited about the food and processing their food. With 10 farms in the area, we would love to see more and more products come to the market from our local producers. That'll be it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're at 10 minutes now, so I'll just get the board to give us approval to move ahead. And I can't see the board, but we got Cal moving it. And-
Second.
Okay, that's Penny seconded it, and you'll have to say aye because I can't see you. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. What was that for innovation?
Much appreciated. My apologies for carrying on. And one of the biggest points was getting China Creek here. So we won't go on with the specifics of it, how many sites and whatnot. I just want to say that China Creek has been very successful in the last couple of years, namely because we have great staff. Also, our marketing has gotten better. That's something we've had to do even more. Giveaways and partnerships, like with Arbutus RV. So that's really helped our campground flourish in the last 2 seasons, and we can't deny COVID. It gave us some staycations that really helped wrap it up. But people own these RVs and they visited China Creek, and we're getting people returning. That's huge. So we aren't full every weekend, but all long weekends we were, and we're getting closer. The ambition isn't to grow the park; it's to enhance it, but make it full on the weekdays as well. And that's our long-term goal. We do have challenges there. The port put the infrastructure in under the Harbor Commission many years ago in the 80s for most of it. So we've got a lot of, we get deteriorating access road, aging infrastructure, dredging costs every 4 to 5 years. It's $100,000 so to dredge. We've got a new area we might have to dredge, which will require different permits, and this is time consuming, but very costly as well. We only have so much water supply capacity. We found that out last summer when we had a water line break. Also power supply. As these RVs are getting bigger and more air conditioners and whatnot, people are living more comfortably. So those are some of the challenges. There's also opportunity. Investing in infrastructure, and people want to stay, and more people will come. We can always look at more mortgage capacity and camping if we need to. Creation of cabins. We've got the 2 coho cabanas in conjunction, in partnership actually with the wind kiteboard. No, I always blow that one. Wind Rider. Thank you. Kiteboard is cool. Sorry. So 2 cabanas there that are a lovely place to stay, I got to say. And we're looking at possibly having some more of those. We're also looking at getting better on sustainability. We have huge garbage costs. The recycling is very much a challenge out there. The larger companies don't want to move it for you. So we're really vowing to add to the recycle program, the waste management, and minimize. And maybe one day get to a place where it's pack in, pack out. As I mentioned, last year was probably the biggest year revenue-wise. And we'll switch 2 slides, please. And that has many variables. It was great weather. The fishing was great for sockeye and for Chinook. And of course, the staycation. So that was kind of a perfect storm for that campground. And we hope to maintain that with some advertising to go on. We'll leave the report on the desk here for those from the financials here in the essence of saving time here. What the port is really looking for, we'll switch to the last slide here, please, is considerations. Right now, our lease with the ACRD is due in 2029, which really seems light years away. But we've got a lot of improvements that we really seriously need to look at with this aging infrastructure, namely sewer, water, and power. And we'd like to engage at another time, of course, and try and extend that lease to 2049. So if we're going to invest in our future out there together, we want to know that we have some time to make this happen and recoup, hopefully for all of us. Otherwise, we always appreciate the support, and we're going to work with Mr. Gregory and look forward to working together in the future. Thank you for the extra time.
So once we have the screen back, anybody got any questions they'd like to put forward? Director Bodner.
Thank you. Mike, it seemed like there is more positive things than we've heard from a long time if they come into fruition for the Alberni area. One of the things I wanted to ask, did I understand that you said we would bring other people's stuff, garbage or whatever, to be recycled someplace here along our canal for recycling? And if that is going to happen, what are you going to do with what's left of the garbage that needs to be recycled? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, and that's something I don't have a definite answer for. I'm not representing the Port Authority. We're not in the business of recycling or waste management, but we know that there's quite an industry to this on this ocean cleanups, that it's opportunity for economics in Port Alberni at the waterfront and potential landfills. And I don't know the current case of the landfill for the ACRD landfill, if that's a possibility, or maybe it's subsequent lands in the Alberni Valley where this could take place. And it's just, it's really cleaning up our oceans, and they're providing a tremendous amount of work to do that. The one company has roughly 60 employees and hundreds of seasonal employees. And this is all to clean up our oceans on the West Coast, namely on the West Coast of Vancouver Island today. And also the green crabs, which maybe Mr. Deacon might speak to when he gets up here.
Thank you. So I know that we will be hearing more information as these opportunities come forth then.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Director Steer.
Great, thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the presentation. It's really exciting for me. I've been long involved in the marine industry on the West Coast here, and the growth of the marine industry for the economy of the West Coast. It just shows with the proper amounts of support that it really is a key industry in our area and continues to be. And so I'm very excited about the diversity of the businesses that are showing up in our region, and highly encourage the support of the Port Authority and all the work that they're doing specifically in the Alberni Valley, but out in my area, those spin-offs do definitely reflect in an increased awareness of the importance of the marine industry to the economy, as you pointed out, with those well-paying jobs, long-term well-paying jobs, and are less reliance on the tourism industry out in my part of the world. So I thank you for that presentation. And I encourage everyone to be as involved as they can. So thanks again.
Thank you for your support on that. And that's our aim with lack of cargo at times, which we're always working to ramp back up, is the marine cluster. We have wonderful services in Port Alberni, and we want to capitalize on those and grow this together for all marine sectors.
Director Cote?
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Carter, thank you for the presentation. I love listening to the productivity that's coming through from the Port Authority. I love the hub. I think that you're doing a marvelous job there. And China Creek, love to see the development there and how it's slowly progressing into bigger and bigger. Usually we have been presented with a budget coming from China Creek and just didn't see it. Is that still coming? Thank you, and congratulations on all your work.
Thank you, much appreciated. I don't have an answer on that, but I will find out for you and get some answer to the board as soon as possible.
Alrighty, anybody else? No, seeing none. Thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
And keep up the good work. It's always exciting to see those things advancing. Okay, moving on. Mr. Pat Deacon from the Economic Development Manager of Port City of Port Alberni on the economic development activities in the Alberni Valley and Banfield areas. Yep. Same procedure. You get 10 minutes. If you're cruising past that, I'll let you know and we'll get the board to approve.
Thank you. Much appreciate the opportunity to address the board today. And if you would please skip to the next slide, Janice, thank you. So for those of you that are not familiar with economic development, my job description or my mandate letter is business retention, expansion and attraction, and diversification of the economy. And in the last several years, I've also fallen into a lot of grant writing. So the purpose of this work is to create conditions for increasing jobs and tax revenue, and to reduce costs to the municipality and taxpayers. So I'm employed by the city of Port Alberni. What's the relevance of my work to the electoral areas? Well, to use an appropriate mantra, a rising tide floats all boats. And I would go on to say that some electoral area residents own or work in businesses in the city, access the commercial kitchen and Dock Plus, will take up the offer of an island good license that's been funded by the city, may have family members taking training in funded areas, may have family members moving into the city, may get involved in economic sectors that are being supported or encouraged, like marine rehabilitation, and may have family accessing the West Coast General Hospital or other facilities and that will be further explained shortly. And lastly, I would point out that some economic development activities align with the regional district's strategic plan, and certainly some of them align with the city's strategic plan. So I've got the next 3 slides are about the work that we've been doing in collaboration, in partnership with the Port Authority, Community Futures Alberni Clayoquot, the Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce, Alberni Valley Tourism, and the regional district. And it occurred to me as Mike and Kate were talking that really it's about making connections to others. So, and I'll get into that a little. No, actually, I'll get into it right now. In some senses, the Doc Plus started right here in this room in an Ag Development Committee meeting. One day, somebody brought forward the opportunity that the province had for funding for food hubs. I knew that the Port Authority were already looking for a tenant for the former fish plant, and were willing to put up $500,000 in matching funding towards that. The grand prize in the competition for the food hub was $750,000. And we began working, members of the Ag Development Committee, the Port Authority, and others towards a realization of that funding. And we secured it, the big prize, after the board of the Port Authority had agreed that they would commit their $500,000 towards the project, and they would support the conversion of that fish plant into a Canadian Food Inspection Agency food hub. So another bit of a connection would be that with respect to China Creek, recently, or so over the last 4 months, we've had a few different parties looking for a site for an eco wellness resort, or some campgrounds or some campsites, or glamping opportunities. And I've been able to take that individual to some spots out at Sprout Lake, and to some other areas around the community, including to the China Creek Marina. And having obtained their interest in this, hand them off to the Port Authority, where they begin to work with the individual there. So I'm conscious of the fact that time's running. So I'm just going to connect on a few initiatives that have a tie to the regional district. Obviously, one is in your strategic plan. You talk about the agricultural sector, and we continue to provide support for the Doc Plus and the tenants in there. And as I mentioned earlier, we've made Island Good licenses available free of charge for a 1-year period for any Alberni Valley business that wants to get deeper into the food business or the beverage business, and see for themselves whether that affiliation brings them any additional revenues. So the other is the industrial land inventory and action plan was done in conjunction with your planning department here. In spite of the fact that we have a reputation for being an industrial community, we are really short on industrial land. So I'm Unfortunately, I think the high level costing that we did for some large industrial sites in the community are such that we would absolutely require an anchor tenant that was prepared to pay a good part of the freight going forward into that situation. Mr. Carter and I were on an event this morning with the Island Corridor Foundation. One of the things that they pointed out to us that had eluded me was that they own large swaths of land around the corridor, and they see an opportunity for industrial lands tied to the rail should that come into being. Moving on, I spoke earlier about West Coast General Hospital. Recently, we were approached by a staff member at the hospital asking for help in recruiting health professionals. So we being Marcy from your health network and myself met with them, and we've obtained information from other jurisdictions around the province who are also looking to recruit health professionals. Mike talked about Canadian Maritime Engineering. They've asked us for some help in recruiting tradespeople, so we're doing that. We've taken out an ad on their behalf, and we're working on other fronts to try and bring professionals. The SANG group is also trying to recruit people right now. That was the 9-minute warning, I think. The MRDT, Municipal Regional District Tax, something that we would like to secure. There are, I just want to end with a brief comment about marine rehabilitation, remediation, and regeneration. Again, our MP, Gord Johns, let us know that Coastal Restoration Society was running out of space in Tofino, was looking for a new forever home. Gord introduced them to me. I subsequently introduced them to the Port Authority, and that's when we learned that they were also working with Maersk. And we believe that there's an opportunity to create a whole new sector of the economy. So I'll stop there. More to say. Happy to answer any questions.
Alrighty, so we must have a bucket load of questions here. Who would like to ask the first one? Phew. No questions. Man,
Excellent.
you must have explained that just excellently.
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you for all the efforts you put on in. I know that a lot of them are sort of behind closed doors and we don't see much of them, but economic development is just an ongoing thing that we have to keep pushing ahead. If we don't, somebody else will. So I mean, that's kind of almost like the Mercs thing. You know, it's somebody will pick up the ball if we don't, and just keep on keeping on. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a question on the table. Go ahead.
If I could just make a comment as well, because I am new to the organization, but I do know Pat. And I have to say that the value that Pat brings to this valley is actually sought after in many other communities outside of this valley. That long-term presence of economic development, the relationships that are built add a tremendous amount of value. When you hear the jobs that are being created in the valley, I mean, that, you know, whenever at our table we talk about solutions, part of those solutions are having jobs for people that live here locally. So just tons of value there, and looking forward to the ongoing work, and not a shortage of it from the list that you just showed us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now that we started that, anybody else? No, you're good to go, Pat. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, now we got Marcy DeWitt, Coordinator of Alberni Claypot Health Network, with a presentation on poverty reduction project and a final report. So Marcy's online, there she is, and I'll get out of here and you can continue.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks for having me here this afternoon. I am happy to be zooming in today from the traditional territory of the Ucluelet people. I am the coordinator for the Alberni Clayquat Health Network. And as many of you know, over the past 2 years since 2020, we have been going through the process of a poverty reduction action plan. So this was initiated in 2020 under a UBCM grant through the regional district, which the Alberni Clayquat Health Network approached the board to apply on this grant and conduct this work. This is a strategic priority of the Alberni Clayquat Health Network. We've been working around poverty reduction since 2015. And my presentation today, I would like to just walk you through this huge 63-page plan as best as I can in 10 minutes. Highlight the intentions as well as the work that's gone into this. So our broad intentions in developing this plan is to provide focus around advocacy and future direction for leadership in our communities. So it is a regional focus. We didn't get into granular detail for each one of our communities and subregions because a lot of poverty reduction and building prosperity in our region is highly complex and quite big picture. So we did stay higher level within the recommendations in this plan, but also drew in and highlighted areas where communities are already working and can be kind of focusing their individual efforts. So a big part of this was breaking down the barriers to addressing poverty and just kind of looking at some of the work that has gone into this. So it hasn't just been a 2-year process, but as I mentioned, the Alberni Clayquat Health Network and our regional partners have been working around this collaboratively since 2015. We have our poverty reduction protocol agreement with local municipalities that we developed back in 2017 and have collaborated on a number of consultations within the communities prior to the consultation which led into this action plan. So this plan pulls together information from consultations, both past consultations as well as the one that was done specifically for this action plan, with research, best practices, census data, regional statistics, as well as best practices and peer-reviewed research to form recommendations. Within our research, we were able to identify kind of 4 key priority areas and populations, individuals answering the survey, as well as the census information that we reviewed and population statistics really pointed out that youth and young families in our region, single parent families, individuals earning below a living wage, and populations which experience higher levels of stigma and racism were predominantly were overly affected by poverty and failure to prosper within our communities. So really wanting to draw attention to that, as well as ensure that our planning and our plans are moving forward in recognizing these populations. So our process for this plan really looked at building on the work that had already been done, recognizing that many of our vulnerable communities, a common theme that we heard was too much engagement and not enough action. So really wanting to pull from the information that we had already received. We utilized a lot of the information from previous consultations as well as the provincial consultation to inform the survey that we developed. So we had an online survey as well as interviews with people with lived experience, which local organizations assisted with in order to ensure that we were in line with COVID safety. As you know, we applied for this grant prior to the COVID pandemic and received the money just within the first phase of lockdowns. So we drastically altered our engagement plan and worked with local organizations to ensure that we had that ability to connect with people, either them ensuring that there was computer access to fill out the survey or direct interviews with individuals that service providers were working with. And that past information really informed the dimensions that we were looking at when we were surveying the community. You can look at our survey results and our methodology, pages 11 through 14, that outlines the steps we took, as well as the information that we received and the demographics that were represented in the community survey that we put together. All of our surveys and information were vetted through our community partners, community planners, and local networks. So those questions and that information was all collaboratively created to ensure that we were really honing in on things that we didn't know and that we wanted more information around. We've also shared a lot of that data out and are happy to do more. Once we had collected and completed all of our community direct engagement, we moved on to Zoom-based focus groups with key stakeholders. We hosted 2 targeted Zoom-based focus groups and then presented this out to a number of different networks. Also sat with and had interviews with other local leadership, including the MLA and MP. All that kind of came together, and we really were able to identify kind of 3 focus areas that we wanted to, 3 lenses that we wanted to take. So one was around action and looking at the need to build and enhance protective factors to keep people out of poverty and build prosperity in our communities, and then to create clear pathways out of poverty. So those are the 2 kind of areas where we've emphasized in our recommendations. We noticed that there was a lot around equity and building equity. Not surprisingly, cost of living, housing, many of these things are major barriers to prosperity in our communities. And so we really wanted to look at incorporating equity principles within this plan and within the recommendations. So you'll see in each one of the recommendations areas, there's a heavy emphasis on equity and what we can do to increase equity. And there is also a whole recommendation area around building equity within our system. And so this also just kind of emphasizes our need to take action now so as not to influence or further burden future populations. And then last piece was kind of that evaluation lens. So we really wanted to ensure that we had an ability to look at evaluation pieces that were already in place. So we pulled in the Sustainable Development Goals as a shared evaluation tool to report progress and look at our progress through the years. So this is recognizing that our community foundations both report out in their vital signs reports and utilize these evaluation areas and share these evaluations areas across the Alberni Valley and the West Coast Clayoquot vital signs reports. So we already have a lot of that baseline data, and we're able to utilize that as an evaluation tool, or at least a basic evaluation tool moving forward. So as I mentioned, a lot of these recommendations are high level. We prepared this as part of the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District and really for the regional district. But we do want to acknowledge the amazing amount of diversity within our region, not just within our sub-regions as presented here, but also between our individual communities. One of the big pieces that I will point out is that within a 1-year engagement process and through a pandemic, there really wasn't enough time for adequate relationship building, for community engagement and genuine engagement with especially our First Nations and rural and remote communities. So that is one piece that we really acknowledge and have recognized in steps moving forward is a big piece to moving forward as a region around these recommendations. So influencing poverty involves many interventions. So many of these recommendations are or seem huge, and they require a regional advocacy and voice. So we do have a bit of a breakdown into more of the sub-regional components and some of the data specific to subregions and specific to our current situation. And you'll find that in pages 17 to 23. And now, before we run out of time, I'd like to give you just a quick breakdown into the recommendations and the four kind of primary themes that we found within the information. So the first was really around income, and income was a very large piece that encompassed childcare, education, basic needs, and access to food as well. So when we were looking at income, we were looking at both the systemic interventions to assist in lifting people out of poverty, which really focus in on advocacy very much for our municipal and local leadership. So it's advocating for systemic reforms outlined. And we really pulled out the reforms outlined in the Guaranteed Basic Income Panel findings are a great resource and really look at the systemic pieces around social assistance, around disability, and around some of these other systems that are keeping people in poverty rather than assisting with building them out. We also looked at cost of living and that ability to keep money in families' pockets. So that's where pieces such as childcare, education, affordability of basic needs, and food came into play. So those recommendations, that whole big piece is summarized on pages 31 to 47. It's a large chunk of the document. Recommendations around income both have that kind of government advocacy component where we're looking at ways that, local government can call upon the provincial and federal governments to recognize the work that's been done by UBC for the Guaranteed Income Panel, which was commissioned by the provincial government, as well as ways that we can assist in, I guess, locally, promoting a living wage or ensuring that families have access to childcare, which greatly increases their ability to affordable childcare, which greatly increases their ability not only to work, but to keep those dollars in their pocket. Housing was one of those pieces that we recognized a lot of work has been going on throughout the region with the needs assessments in housing. So again, not going into granular detail for each community, we really wanted to focus in on the affordability aspect of housing and how important it is for individuals to have that housing need met, those housing needs met. So one of the big advocacy pieces is advocating for the creation of a national housing strategy or other housing strategies, which assist communities in being able to tackle some of the larger issues that are happening around the housing market. One thing that the Health Network has been involved with regional district directors in the past is advocating and supporting information around a regional or sub-regional housing authority and what that looks like. And then, as always, just talking about the implementation of a housing model which supports those in most need. So really looking at a person-centered approach in which we do have the ability to look at evaluating housing program needs, exploring partnerships, and really building out that system of support, which is so greatly needed in our region. So similarly, there's a lot of work going on in health, mental health, and addictions, and none of us are necessarily the experts. So a lot of our recommendations around health, mental health, and addictions were to support those organizations and those networks that are working so hard in our region. This did come up regularly within the community engagements, so it definitely needed to be mentioned. Ensuring dignity for those accessing health and mental health supports in our communities is a major factor of what was reported out in the community engagements. And so supporting our local CAT teams, looking at harm reduction measures and their recommendations around the impact of the opioid overdose crisis. Looking at patient-centered care models and advocating and supporting funding mechanisms which enhance the individual's access to treatment and care. So really looking at localized solutions. And as I said, divisions of family practice, our local CAT teams, and many of our local health-related networks are experts on this and do require support.
So could I just break in for a second, Marcy? How much longer do you think you've got?
I have 2 slides.
2 slides? Okay,
Yep.
we'll just carry on with that and go from there. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So last is building equity. And so this was one of the pieces that we found throughout our consultation, throughout the work that we were doing, and even throughout the years. So back into 2015, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we've heard was around stigma reduction and building equity and reducing racism. So very specific recommendations around equity, adopting an equity lens for planning and or at least engaging those most affected in planning processes. These recommendations are built throughout the plan. So you'll see recommendations around equity and ways to increase equity, even as easy as engaging individuals around transportation planning are built in throughout the report. And then as well, really kind of bringing forward some of the key pieces around training, interventions in health, social and mental health supports to address stigma associated with mental health, race, gender, or income, and ensuring people have the ability to be seen as deserving of service and deserving of care when they are trying to access care. So those recommendations and that piece is summarized in page 53 to 56. So we do have a lot of work in front of us. This report is certainly not something that's meant to be tabled. As I mentioned, this is a strategic priority of the Alberni-Clayoquot Health Network. We are happy to ensure that this is kept, that these issues are kept in the forefront. Our next steps will be to begin presenting this to all the local leadership tables, municipalities, New Tribal Council Executive Committee, and community groups. And I'm looking forward to working with you further on it.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any questions on all of that? Director Cote?
Thank you. Through the chair, just want to commend Marcy on this wonderful document. It's such a huge amount of work that's been collected, and amazing what you've done through a pandemic. The health network is very appreciative of having all of this information, and I look forward to hearing how communities respond to this information. It's quite critical to the actual fabric of our communities as to who's in our communities that and what their needs are. It's huge. I'm looking forward to maybe breaking it up into pieces and trying to take certain pieces out and expand it out to different areas and see how we can work with this. So just want to say thank you so much, Marcy. Did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny.
Director Stewart.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Marcy. I appreciate the report, of course, a tremendous amount of information. And as you clearly pointed out, one of the central roles that might be available is the advocacy component. As you pointed out, the higher levels of government are often the ones that are pulling the strings on many of these, but you provided a tool for local governments with this report to help in that advocacy position. And I think the information in there, when we do move forward to those higher levels of government, we have now some supporting documentation to help bring that forward. So I commend you on that. And also as you clearly articulated, that many of these will be regional responses where we are bigger when we're collectively moving these things forward. And we also share in those resources to be able to do that. So once again, you clearly pointed out that approach, I think is for the, as earlier said, the rising tide floats us all, and I think it's an apt description. Just the one kind of question, you did allude to it a little bit within the report, and I know it wasn't quite a focus, but one of the things that I'm always interested in is to understand if the strategies that we're bringing forward, advocating for, and then implementing, if we have a monitoring and an evaluation criteria to see if our efforts and our strategies are actually paying off, and if not, then maybe we have to readjust those strategies and look at the effectiveness. You did expand a little bit. Is there a component for monitoring and evaluation strategies that the Alberta Collect would may be able to help us with in terms of our ability to track and the progress or the effectiveness of those strategies that are being brought forward?
Thank you, Tom. I think that absolutely there is. So first of all, we did, as I mentioned, build in just that component of the Sustainable Development Goals to really ensure that there is that larger portion of monitoring through the vital signs reports, which are produced on a regular basis every 2 to 3 years. But most certainly, each one of these areas that requires its own evaluation and monitoring. So we didn't get into the granular pieces of that, but I would say as we are moving forward, one of our last recommendations is around a little bit more of a regional table and or task force, whatever that shape takes. And I think that a big part of that would be the ability for the health network to support that monitoring and evaluation as we move forward. So setting our indicators as we take action on specific areas and then moving forward with that. Yes.
Okay, anybody else? All good. Thank you very much, Marcy. I know this is a ton of work and you've got lots more to do. So I think we'll have other opportunities to talk about this report, and we'll see you around as things unfold. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Correspondence for action, we don't have any. And correspondence for information. Anybody want to pull anything out of that? The one thing I noticed was the item B actually is looking for volunteers to form an advisory committee, and it's West Coast related with the communities of the West Coast. So I don't know exactly what we do with that, because how is it listed? It touches Hot Spring Cove, many others. Item B, the Home Pacific Rim Home Hospice Society. So looking for volunteers for committee. We invite your community representative to participate in helping.
Who wants to go?
Who wants to go? Well, it's kind of Cal's territory, sort of. And it's West Coast. I mean, I'm not sure how you even handle that, but what's that?
I say thanks. Yeah, I looked at it. I'm just trying to figure out if it will work well for me. So
yeah, it isn't the board appointed them, it's the communities appointed them.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Maybe if you just take it under advisement, you can talk to Director Johnson and Director Steer and everybody else and see if we can pull some people out of the woodwork.
Director Cole's got her hand up there. Maybe she.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that if anybody is looking for further information about the Better at Home program that the Pacific Rim Hospice Society is heading up here on the coast, they are coming to delegate at our council meetings. So there'll be, and it's recorded and YouTubed, and Tarni will likely be coming forward with a lovely presentation. So if anybody wanted more details that they could share out in their areas, then you could probably get it there.
Alrighty then. Okay, somebody want to move receipt? Director Beckett and then Director Roberts second. And all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, request for decisions and I think I missed any decisions and bylaws. The 2022 electoral areas directors form, LGLA form. So go ahead, Wendy.
Thank you. I can quickly speak to that. So at the last board meeting, staff were asked to bring back more information on the electoral area directors forum and the local government leadership academy forums that are scheduled for April 2022 in person in Richmond. So staff have provided some information and looking for direction if any electoral area directors would like to attend the EA forum, and if any other directors would like to attend the LGLA. And these two events are held in conjunction with each other as a cost-saving measure. Directors can attend both if they so wish. So we're looking for direction. The cost would be about $1,400 per director to attend. If there's any questions, be pleased to answer them.
I see that one of these forms is next gen 911, so might be an idea of that. So I was thinking I wasn't going to go to this, but I think I would like to go to it myself. I don't know if anybody else would. Director Cote?
Thank you. So there's the two, there's the EA directors, which I had said at the last board meeting that it would be good for electoral area directors to attend, and I would like to see that it's open. I'm not sure who would like to, and if we want to send everybody or a certain amount of directors. And then there's the LGLA meeting also, which we have in the past sent a few directors. It had over the years, it has been open to all or some, or not sure how we want to handle this time. But I too would like to attend these, although it's up to the board as to what we want to do as far as sending directors. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the second one, but I am interested in the first one. No. So, I mean, if we can just put a motion out there that the directors can express their interest in going and get a hold of staff and organize it.
Yeah, so is this for the electoral area directors forum? In order to be remunerated, it requires a resolution.
Yeah.
So for the EA one, is it just authorizing interested electoral area directors in attending?
Yeah.
That would work if we had a motion to that.
Okay, and the LG one is all directors?
We could do that separately, maybe.
Okay, great. Okay, so whatever you
So
say.
I'll move the first that the Alberni Claycoat Regional District Board of Directors authorize electoral area directors to attend the 2022 Electoral Area Directors Forum, April 5th and 6th in Richmond.
Seconder? Seconder, Diane. And any discussion on that? All in favor? Carried. And you're going to do the next one?
So the LGLA is open to directors as well. This is for EA and First Nations to attend. The municipalities would attend through their local governments. So just looking for direction if you want to authorize all EA and First Nation directors to attend or select certain people to attend?
Sure. Well, there's a question. Do we want to leave it open? I'm not sure how many people would actually, maybe we can just give a show of hands. Who would actually be interested in going to this one? Show of hands? One hand. Can't see any other hands there, so we've only got Director Cote that's interested in going, so why don't we just approve that? Okay, so we need a motion to approve that?
Question.
Sure.
The desired outcome was for electoral area director and First Nations.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any First Nations that are even here other than Kirsten that would be interested in going to it, or do they have a separate agenda? I don't know what Kirsten's comment is on that. Thanks.
I mean, sure, Jack might be interested in going to it.
Can I
Go
get
ahead.
in here? Chair Jack is actually presenting,
Oh, okay.
so he'd be covered, so he would be there. There is information here about 911, and I think that Director McNabb, this would be a good one for you to go to as well. So just my own comments. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can put it to a maximum of 4 or something. Can we do that? Okay, why don't we make a motion to approve the maximum of 4 directors, and they can get a hold of Wendy and organize that? Somebody move that.
Move it.
Cote and Director Beckett, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Just as Director Shannon shows up, we just sent you to a meeting. Don't worry about it.
With your kids.
Yeah, with your kids. Yeah. Your
Well,
husband.
everybody will be in for a treat if the kids get to go.
Okay, moving on. City of Port Alberni Grant and Aid Economic Development. So who wants to attack this?
I can take this one. Just so as follow-up after the delegation, just wanting to look for grant and aid amounts. If you're happy to make a motion today, that's great. If you want to do like you've done with the other 2 grant and aids, we can defer this decision to the March 9th Committee of the Whole as part of the larger budget discussion, if you like.
Oh, Director Beckett.
I'm happy to commit to the same amount that Banfield did last year, and I believe, Terry, that was $1,000.
Yes, it was.
Okay, Director Cote.
Thank you. I would agree. I'll commit to the same as last year. We committed $3,000.
And Director Shannon.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to do what I did last year, but I would like to ask you, Director McNabb, if you're more comfortable deferring, because I know you have some other things you want to hash out before you start picking out grant and aid amounts. So I just wanted to open that up first.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, and this is one that, as I said before, if I was going to increase any of them, this would be it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to increase it, but I could maintain it.
Okay.
So you want to, you're the same as last year? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I will keep it the same as I had it last year.
Okay, and Director Bodner?
Yes, I would keep it the same as last year.
Okay, so we've got the full scope there. So somebody want to move the motion? And we can just do it as the figures that were last year's figures, I would suspect. Is that good enough, Terry?
Yes, I can just read out the amounts just so that everyone is aware. So that would be $1,000 from Banfield, $500 from Beaufort, $3,000 from Sprout Lake, $3,000 from Beaver Creek, and $1,000 from Cherry Creek for a total of $8,500.
Okay. Okay, we got a mover, I can't remember who it was, Bob. And the seconder, the second, Diane, and so all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, electoral areas, directors only for the next little bit here. So who's taking this away, Mike?
This would be me. And I hopefully, if the other directors can stick around, so I know we're getting close to quorum. So if some of the other directors could just stay
Yeah,
on
we
the
need a
line,
quorum.
that would
so
be great.
don't go
Thank you.
anywhere.
I know you don't get a vote, so thanks. So the first one is a development variance application in Haggard's Cove. This is in Banfield area, and it is a variance to reduce the lot width to 52 feet from 60 feet, and the front yard setback to 15 feet from 25. I note that the notices have been sent out, and to date, and we have not received any correspondence back, and staff's recommendation is to issue the variance. So if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
So isn't that lot already got a building on it? Is the corner lot?
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought that was Haggard's original building.
Oh, sorry. There may be a building on it, and this is one that we had previously, it's being subdivided, and we had previously changed the zoning on it, which affected the setbacks as well.
Alrighty. Someone move that? Director Beckett?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I
second?
had moved that the Board of Directors issue development variance permit DVA 21011.
Okay, seconder? Lots of seconders. I'll pick Diane. Okay, any question on all of that? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, all opposed? Carried. That was easy. Next one.
So this is a rezoning application within Banfield. It is a 3.4 acre property that is proposed to be rezoned from A2, which is a larger acreage property, to RA3 to facilitate a 3-lot subdivision. A public hearing was held previously, and third reading was issued, and this is for adoption, and all the conditions of rezoning have been met, and staff recommends that the board adopt this bylaw.
Director Beckett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd move that the bylaw P1435 Regional Districts of Alberni Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be adopted.
Seconder?
Second.
Cal? Okay, any questions on this? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next one, Zimmerman, Highland Drive, Beaver Creek.
Yep, so this is a development variance application for a property in Beaver Creek, and this is the first step in the variance application. And the application is to reduce the front yard setback from 40 feet to 24 feet for an accessory building. This is a steeper property, and this fits the better siting. The Beaver Creek Advisory Planning Commission met earlier this month and supports moving this application forward. And if the board passes this resolution, the next step would be for staff to do the neighbor notification. And again, happy to answer any questions.
So what's the lot size on that?
Sorry, it's approximately an acre.
An acre. So they're not having problems with site coverage?
No.
No? Wow. Okay, so I would move that the Board of Directors consider issuing a development variance permit DVE 21008, subject to neighboring properties being notified as per the local government. Seconded by Director Shannon. Okay, any questions on that? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. And the next one.
So this is another development variance application in Beaver Creek. It is 6081 and 6091 Beaver Creek Road, and the development variance is to reduce the lot width from 165 feet to 137 feet. And this is in order to facilitate a boundary adjustment and lot consolidation. So this is one where once the variance is approved and the subdivision goes through, it would be more, if it's a lot boundary, there would be no additional lots created. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on that one? So the stream or creek that's indicated there, is that problematic in any of this?
No.
Okay. I would move that the board of directors issue development variance permit DVE 21010. Seconded by Director Shannon. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Man, Beaver Creek's like busy.
It's booming. So the last application is for a result, or last issue on the board agenda today is a rezoning application, again in Beaver Creek. It is 6692 Beaver Creek Road. This is a 5-acre parcel or 2-hectare parcel that is currently zoned A1, which A1 allows for a 2-acre minimum parcel size. And the application is to rezone to RA2 for a 1-acre minimum parcel size to facilitate a 2-lot subdivision, which would result in one parcel being approximately 3.5 acres and the other parcel being approximately 1.5 acres. I would note that there is a creek, Plestate Creek goes through this property, and a development permit for riparian setback environmental protection would be required at the subdivision stage. And again, the APC reviewed this earlier this month and recommended proceeding with first reading. And as always, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions there? I would move that bylaw P1439 Regional District Development Clayoquot Zoning Atlas Amendment bylaw be read for the first time. Seconder, Director Cote. And all in favor? And opposed? Carried. I would move that the public hearing for bylaw P1439 be delegated to the Director of Electoral E, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the regional district. Thank you. Can I combine the next one with it?
No,
You're going to vote that? Okay,
no, I think they should all be separate discussions, please.
Okay, second, Director Roberts. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the board of directors confirmed that adoption of bylaw P1439 is subject to confirmation from a registered on-site water practitioner that the property is capable of accommodating on-site sewer disposal to a minimum of 1 acre density. And can I include the meeting technical and meeting technical referral agency requirements? Seconder, Dr. Shannon. Okay, any questions? All in favor? Opposed? We're carried. On to reports. Oof, we just breezed right through that. Okay, we got staff reports. And anybody want to pull in the staff reports? No. So motion to receive the staff reports. Director
So
Costa
moved.
and Director Roberts. All in favor? What, you got a question, Ben?
I do have a question.
Okay.
On the on page 79, the year to date is the same for 2021 as it is for 2020. I'm just wondering why that is.
Because all of the stars on all of the sky align.
I will check that. And probably,
Right down to the dollar.
thanks.
Okay, motion to see the report with the correction or comment. I think I had a mover and seconder, didn't I?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Committee reports, 911 report, the meeting is next week. Library report,
No report at this time. We're into our strategic planning, so the board did a strategic plan and a version, and now it goes to the public to get input for the strategic plan for Vancouver Island Regional Library. So hopefully all the directors will have some input. I know that Tofino would like a new library, so just keeping that in mind. Thanks.
Alberta Valley Chamber of Commerce for Dominions, are you still there? Don't look like it. Okay, and West Coast Aquatic, oh, no, sorry, Air Quality Council.
Sorry, our first meeting this year will be next week.
Okay, West Coast Aquatic, Director Steer.
No meeting, no report.
Okay, thank you. AVICC, Director Cote.
Convention's coming. Resolutions were in. We haven't looked at it yet, but meeting is coming up in a couple of weeks. So that's about all I have to report at this time.
Okay, Beaver Creek Water Advisory. Just one little note on that. We haven't actually had a meeting since last one, but we are transferring approximately $90,000 from our development cost charge account to our construction account and the construction we're doing on Karen Place. So it shows the value of those collections, the development cost charge fees, because they're going into upgrading the actual pipeline, going from one size to another. So otherwise it'd be coming out of somebody's pocket. So that's did actually, but it actually kind of verifies and quantifies that the system was there before the folks were, and that we've upgraded it, and now it'll be better for the future. So good thing. West Island Woodlands Advisory Group, I attended that, and it was really interesting about the way that the forestry companies are assessing riparian areas and actually looking for potential either snow slides or landslides in where they're working, and working to mitigate the risk, either not logging into those areas or doing specialty logging in those areas. I hope to have a actual report that was going to be forwarded on all the LiDAR and the outcomes of over the years of what happened with the stream flows and changes in the actual positioning of the creeks and the rivers. So it was really good. I don't know if Ron's got any more to add to that, but I thought that was one of the best meetings I've seen.
Yeah, for sure, John, that Glynis really certainly knows her stuff. But one question that I walked away with when that Dave was talking about the allowable cutout there, and I believe he said it's down to about 430,000 cubic meters. And he said because of the economic partition. Do you know what he meant by economic partition?
No, but it's a question we could ask Heather if she was in the room, but we'll ask her when we find her in the hallway.
Yeah, I have asked Heather, and she was going to send an email to Dave. But it's, I think back of, when I started out at Cameron Division, there was something in the neighborhood of 2.2 million cubic meters in this TFL. And I was just mentioning to somebody, 400,000 cubic meters, we haven't got enough wood to run one sawmill.
Well, I heard that, and I took it as their partnership being affected by the partnership. And I don't know if that's correct or not, but Heather can straighten it out. Thanks. Okay, Agricultural Development Committee, Director Shannon.
We haven't had a meeting. The next one's March 1st.
Okay, thanks. That's going to take like 3 hours next time. Okay, so have we got anybody online?
We do have one attendee online, so if they have any comments, they should put it into the Q&A now.
And do we want to take a short break after this before we go in camera, or just charge on right through? Charging on right through.
There's no comments from the attendee online, and no comments or input received to our email address.
Yeah, we should receive the reports. That'd be a really good idea. Motion to receive the report.
So moved.
And Director Beckett, second. Any comments on all that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So do we want to move to recess for a minute or two? Or?
There's only one item, isn't there?
Okay, yeah, okay. A motion to close the meeting to the public as per Community Charter, Section 901I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege. I was thinking confidentiality, privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose.
So moved.
It's seconder by Cal, and all in favor?